Okay. So firstly, let me let me do some introduction of myself. So you will see me on, I appear on the social media very often. So this is a podcast, the weekly podcast I do. So if you want to practice your Mandarin listening, then maybe it's a good source for you. So we mainly focus on the US, China, and Taiwan relations. So each week we will do maybe several news, the most important news of that week, and to do some analysis. And also we have, in each week I will do one interview. So about one book or authors or any particular event for maybe 20 minutes. So we have 2 episodes per week. And also we will see me on the Who Governs Taiwan, it's 菜市场政治学. So basically it's about to introduce the political science research and to match the latest news in Taiwan. And this is another episode, another podcast I do. It's called 静好听. So 静好听 is another source for you if you want to practice your listening. 静好听 is they have a lot of episodes for free, so you can just subscribe for them, and they have their own app. And 为什么我们要在意美国? This is a book written by our group, US-Taiwan Watch. So it's basically to introduce why the US is so important for the Taiwanese audience. So today we are going to talk about Taiwan's history in geopolitical view and the dynamic of the 3 ways relations and why Taiwan matters. So you will see very different views, very different descriptions about Taiwan. The first study is the most important place in the world by New York Times. And here's a picture about TSMC. So you see that, okay, it's about high-tech industry. And another one from economists, the most dangerous place on earth is Taiwan. So it's targeting by radar here, obviously the China's PLA. So it seems contradictory, but basically they are connected to each other. So quite intuitive that Taiwan makes 62% of all chips and 92% of the advanced chips for all over the world. So, Taiwan is very important, especially TSMC. It's a leading company in the high-tech industry. Also, you might see this just yesterday, that CEO Jensen Huang, he just delivered about the future development of AI. And the NVIDIA is the leading company for producing the chips for AI. And he says that the basement of the producing and the design will be in Taiwan, and also Taiwanese companies. So maybe you can make some investment buying the stocks of these companies. But also we should know that this is the latest development of the world, and this is highly connected to the military development, because the AI chips and also the US now having a lot of sanctions on China to prevent China from getting the most advanced chips for AI and for military development. So this is very important, in Taiwan as well. I think he was born in Taiwan and raised up in the US. Okay. So Taiwan is also very important because you can see this is the route, the map of the navals, of the ships around the world. So you see this, around this area, about 55% of all cargo ships will go through this area. And also, if you counted the most, the biggest one, so the top 10% heaviest cargo ship, around 90% of them will go through this area. So if there's a conflict here, it will directly affect the world economy, seriously. Also, there's an estimation that if there's a blockade or even a military conflict, then we will have very big economic losses globally. I don't know what does this number means, 2.5 trillion, but it's very big, right? Okay, so it's estimated by the Financial Times. Okay, let's turn to Taiwan. So this is a map of Taiwan. I don't know whether you have time for a travel in the weekend. Do you have one? Yes? So you plan for yourself or the school? Yourself? Okay, so I highly recommend that you maybe, well, we have an earthquake here, so you cannot visit Taroko anymore, so, well, maybe next time. But if you have time, well, a lot of places that you can go. So I like Hualien very much, the eastern Taiwan. So you can take a train here to Yilan. There's take a hot spring or to go to the beach. So very convenient. So I like Taipei because you can reach out to a beach and a mountain within 1 hour. So it's very convenient. So also you can take a high-speed train to maybe Kaohsiung City, the south part. Okay. So the area of Taiwan it's about the same with Belgium or Netherlands, or in the US, Taiwan's area is about the same with Maryland. Okay, it ranked about 43, 44 of the all states. If Taiwan is a state, then it will rank maybe, well, it's not a big item. Okay, so it's about the same with Maryland. However, it's population. Population is the same with Australia, and if Taiwan is the state of the US, then it will have the third or fourth largest count of the votes, the votes for the president. Okay, so very big one. Oh. So, well, how to say that in English? It's 23 million population in a small island. Okay, and so the density of the population is among the highest in the world. It's about 2 or 3. But following by, I mean, the first one is Bangladesh, and then I think Taiwan or Hong Kong. Economy, I mean, the size of economy is the same with Switzerland, okay, and it's about 22 in the world, I mean, in terms of GDP. For the military, it's the same with just like Canada, or, well, as a middle power. So Taiwan is, although it's a small island, but it's a big in terms of economy. So this is a rank by the global GDP. I mean, basically the size. Okay, so Taiwan is doing very good on economy. So we just lay down the map. So north is here. So it's an angle from the mainland China. So it's here's the mainland China. So you can see we have a lot of mountains. Okay, a lot of mountains, and it's a very narrow area here in the eastern coast. So here's Yilan, here's Hualien, here's Taidong. So very beautiful places for you to visit. And here's Kending. So Kending is a national park. It's also very popular for tourists. But do not go there in the autumn Danwujie. How to say Danwujie in English? It's a dragon boat festival. Okay, it will be crowded everywhere. So maybe do not go too far, because everywhere you will see crowded. So we have 2 Soochow universities in the world. Okay, so they are basically the same. I mean, the logo is the same. How to say this? The slogan of the school is the same. Unto a full-grown man. So which one is the authentic one? It's here. Okay, here is the authentic one, because, well, originally it's established in the year 1900 by a Catholic church. Yes. So it's by church. Okay, a priest. So it's a religious group originally in Soochow. Soochow is a city, and Dongwu in Mandarin is a region. It's the name of the region. Okay, so Dongwu. So it's very special that our Mandarin name and the English name is different. Okay, so our school, the English name and the Mandarin name. So this is the original one. Suzhou is a city, and Dongwu is the whole region, the southeast China. Okay, the region's name. And in China, they they rebuilt another Soochow University. And you can see that the only difference is the Mandarin name, Soochow 大学. So there, in China, the English name and Mandarin name is the same, Suzhou. But here, the authentic one is Dongwu. I mean, the original name is Dongwu in Mandarin. But in English name, is originally Suzhou. So it's a little bit confusing. So when we register in the international conference, then it's very confusing sometimes. Okay. So, but you can see this in many institutions, like Tsinghua University. There's one in Beijing and one in Hsinchu. There's a Jiaotong University, one in Beijing, one in Hsinchu. Okay, it is because we have, originally the government is established in China. We will go through this. So this is just an example that Taiwan is highly connected to China historically, but now kind of separated for a very long time. Okay, so it re-established here 1954 in Taipei here. And what's the importance of the location here? Can you imagine any of the importance here? Because we are very near the houses of Chiang Kai-shek. Do you notice that? There's a Chiang Kai-shek's living house near here. It's called Shilin Guandi. And also we are just near Yangmingshan. Do you know Yangmingshan? Just the mountain around here. Yangmingshan is where Chiang Kai-shek lived as well. He loved this area. So I guess that our school leaders had very close relationship with the dictator back into 1950s, so that we can have this campus, okay, very close to the dictators. Okay, so it's very important right now. And also there's a National Palace Museum. So it's all important to Chiang Kai-shek and well guarded. I mean, you can see a lot of basement, the old ancient basement for guarding this area. Okay, so back in 1912, we have the Republic of China. Officially, it's called 中华民国. So it's our current official name of our country right now. So I put a 1.0 here because I think my argument, or many argues that this is a country that's totally different to this one. So maybe this one, our current country is the 2.0. I will mention this later. So in 1911, we have there's a revolution and overthrow of the Qing dynasty. Okay, and then China just get into a divided and ruled by warlords, a lot of warlords. And then Chiang Kai-shek here just unified all mainland China. So he's he's very good at having wars and winning wars, but he's not very good at rule. So later on in the Civil War, he just lost to the Communist Party, to all of the mainland. Okay, and quickly they went through a war with Japan. It's basically World War II. Okay, so Japan just invaded China that time, and then Chiang Kai-shek just led the war against Japan in that time. So basically, Chiang Kai-shek is one of the warlords, but he just won. Okay, so the history is written by the winners always. So he just won. So in 1945, the end of the World War II, but China just went into the Civil War. So basically, the Chinese Communist Party led by Mao Zedong that time. Well, Mao Zedong is very clever that during the war with Japan, his strategy is that they will use 30% of the efforts to come back with Japan, 70% of efforts to develop their own institution. Very clever, right? Because, well, Chiang Kai-shek is the main troops that come back with Japan, and then Mao Zedong can develop their own organizations. And after that, it quickly went into the Civil War. And Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong reached out, signed a peace treaty in Chongqing that time. So the lesson is that you can never trust the Communist Party, because even if you have a treaty with them, well, it will always be broken. So there's another example is about Tibet. Okay, so China, Communist Party signed a treaty with Tibet in 1950s, and then after 7 or 8 years. Then the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, just went into Tibet and then just expelled Dalai Lama. So here, the treaty did not stop the civil war. So we see that in 1949, just very short, 4 years, just in 4 years, Chiang Kai-shek just lost all of the mainland. And the capital of China, of this Republic of China, just went from Nanjing to Guangzhou to Chongqing to Chengdu and to Soochow, and then finally went to Taipei. So it is a very, very rare case in the history that a regime, a country, or a leader just defeated, destroyed all of them, and you have another chance to survive or to reborn in another place. It's a very rare case in the history. So here, Chiang Kai-shek and his army just went to Taipei. So in that time, Taiwan had a population about 8 million. Well, 7 or so million. And then he brought about 2 million people from mainland China to Taiwan. So you can see that in the 1949 and to 1950, it's a very chaotic situation. And you can see in Taipei, some areas, the houses are very ugly and very crowded, okay? Especially if you go to the Da'an, how to say that, near Da'an区, Liuzhangli MRT station, Liuzhangli. There's a very ugly houses, very old houses, very crowded, because suddenly there's a huge amount of population went there, fled there, nowhere to live. And they do not think Taiwan is their permanent home. Because Chiang Kai-shek told them, we will go back to the mainland someday. We will fight back. We will take back our home someday. So they do not think that Taiwan is their home. So they just build up very ugly houses for temporary use. So after maybe 2-3 decades, in 1970s or 80s, they realized that they will never go back again. So, well, they have the longer term construction. Okay, so that's why you see many ugly old houses here in Taipei and a lot of places in Taiwan. Okay, so in 1949. So here's a political question here. So, Republic of China, the official name. And there's a new China here, right? You can see People's Republic of China. Which one is China? Okay, and that is the first question. Which one is China? And second one is who controls and who owns the territory of Taiwan? The second one. Okay, because there's a 50 years of Japanese colony. After 1895, Japan defeated the Qing dynasty, and in a treaty that the Qing dynasty just give up the sovereignty of Taiwan to Japan. So Taiwan became a Japanese colony for 50 years. And after the World War II, before the end of World War II, in the Cairo Declaration, 1949, by Chiang Kai-shek, Mr. Roosevelt, and Mr. Churchill, they decided that Taiwan shall return to China, okay, in the Cairo Declaration. China at that time is the Republic of China, of course, right? Republic of China, led by Chiang Kai-shek. And in 1945, when Japan surrendered, Taiwan became a trust territory of United Nations. So does Vietnam. Okay, so Chiang Kai-shek just in behalf of the United Nations take over control Vietnam and also Taiwan. So the Vietnamese people fight against the ruling of the UN and also the French colonies. And then Vietnam became independent. But Taiwanese people did not. Okay, Taiwanese people did not. Because for Taiwanese people, they kind of lost here for half a century. They are very happy to return to their motherland, the so-called motherland. So Taiwanese people are happy that time. At that time they are happy. So yeah, so they're happy to return to China. However, there's a civil war. So civil war ended in 1949, and Chiang Kai-shek just lost and fled to Taiwan. So the question is, does Taiwan belong to China still? I mean, after Chiang Kai-shek lost everything in mainland. So here, this is a, very interesting picture in China. I mean, in mainland China, there is a historical, cultural park, and they exhibit this tomb for Republic of China. So it ended in 1949, right? So in the view of China, People's Republic of China, Communist Party, the Republic of China has already ended, okay? And Chiang Kai-shek just admitted that, okay, we lost everything, okay? And then, well, his history happens, some big things happens. Korean War, here comes the Korean War. So this is a map. So Korean War happened in 1950, the Korean War. At that time, you can see that just North Korea just invaded South Korea, and then quickly, the South Korea just defeated, and then the U.S. just intervened, and General MacArthur just led and to go back, and General MacArthur argues that we should use this opportunity to attack China, to take back from the Communist Party, and China just frightened. Mao Zedong just frightened because, well, you can see that here, there's no, territory, there's no defense here. It's a plain. So the U.S. troops can go through this very easily. Okay, this is a plain. You just need to go through this river, Yali River. So it's very fragile. For China, if you are Mao Zedong, you see a big army led by General MacArthur, who is a very good general, and quickly goes through by this. You can see in 2 months, just 2 months, you move very fast, and then the next step is toward Beijing. Beijing is very near here, right? Beijing is about here, just here. So you can see Beijing is about here, the location is here. So very close to the border. So they decided to participate in the Korean War. So for the U.S., here, the two armies just step back to around here, the line 38 degrees as their temporary border. So the U.S. see the danger of the expansion of the Communist Party and then decided to cooperate with Chiang Kai-shek. Before that, in the Civil War, the U.S. just abandoned Chiang Kai-shek. Why? Because there's a very severe corruption issues. So every American aid to Chiang Kai-shek will be going into the personal pocket of their big families. There's four famous big families who take over all of the Americans' aid. So the Americans are very angry. So they no longer help Chiang Kai-shek, and then Chiang Kai-shek just lost all of the mainland to CCP. So after Chiang Kai-shek fled to Taiwan, nobody cares. Everyone thinks that sooner or later it will be defeated. Taiwan will be controlled by the CCP. So it's no use. We don't have to spend any resource on this guy anymore. But the Korean War just saved the fate of Chiang Kai-shek and all Taiwanese people because this location. So General MacArthur says that Taiwan is an unthinkable aircraft carrier. Unthinkable aircraft carrier. Here, in the middle of the first island chain. Okay, so what is this chain for? To contain the expansion of the Communist Party, right? So the Communist Party includes here China's Communist Party, a dictatorship in North Korea, and also the Soviet Union. So the U.S. decided to cooperate with Chiang Kai-shek again as the middle of the first island chain. But there's a trouble here, because firstly, the U.S. want to settle the Taiwan issue. I mean, who owns Taiwan? Who owns the territory of Taiwan in UN? So they established a group of people who can investigate how to deal with Taiwan's issue in United Nations. But here comes the Korean War. If Taiwan is part of China, and this China is defeated and replaced by People's Republic of China, then Taiwan should be part of that China, right? So legally, I mean the legal status. Firstly, do remember that Taiwan will return to China. This China is Republic of China, led by Chiang Kai-shek. But this China is defeated later, okay? Defeated and almost replaced by that China, I mean Mao Zedong's China. So if they're still, I mean, they should solve this problem here. So the US designed an undetermined status of Taiwan because Taiwan cannot be part of China. If Taiwan is part of China, then the Taiwan problem is a civil war. It's an extension of civil war. So there's, I mean, according to international law, you cannot intervene in a civil war. So international allies or foreign countries cannot intervene in a civil war. So there's a, I mean, if it is a civil war or if Taiwan's still part of China. So they, I mean, the US just purposely designed for an undetermined status of Taiwan by several treaties. So in 1951, there's a San Francisco Treaty. It's also known as the US-Japan Peace Treaty, signed in San Francisco. So in that treaty, it says that Japan just give up the sovereignty of Taiwan, but it did not specify whom will have Taiwan. Okay, so in Cairo Declaration, remember, all the leaders says that Taiwan shall return to China from Japan, right? However, in these treaties, they purposely do without any sovereignties owners of Taiwan, purposely, okay, of the US. And also the US designed this treaty by ROC and Japan. They signed the treaty and state that, okay, the Japan will give up the sovereignty, maybe give up the control over the colony, and then just does not specify who will have Taiwan. And then Taiwan and the US signed a military treaty, which gives the US the status that the US can have a permanent military stationary in Taiwan. So it's a legal design of so-called undetermined status of Taiwan. Okay, so then we will have this fight between this China and this China. So Chiang Kai-shek insists that we are still China. We will fight back someday. But for the US, it's a stupid idea to fight back because, well, it's a mainland China, it's so big. And then it's not necessary that you fight back because Taiwan is too small, right? If you want to fight back, then remember, you have a treaty here. So the US does not want to spend any resource or soldiers fighting for Chiang Kai-shek's maybe the territory ambition. That's not necessary. Okay, so the US main goal is to maintain the so-called status quo. That is Taiwan, I mean, ROC is ROC and PRC is PRC, two sides, just prevent any of the military conflict. So 2 decades later, this man, National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger, he decided to, he arranged secretly that President Nixon's visit to China. Do you read any of this history? Yes, so secretly, well, very strategic, right? So when all of the world sees that, okay, the US now cooperating with China, then it also means that it's for Taiwan, it's a big news, right? Chiang Kai-shek is feeling this abandoned something. So in the United Nations, Henry Kissinger is very long-lived. He is still the top broker for the US-China relations. So everyone has to contact with Mr. Kissinger and to make some connection with China. So for the UN seat, we have two Chinas, right? This way. So the US suggests a dual representative plan. That is, we have two Chinas. One China is PRC, and PRC replaced and take the permanent seat in the UN Security Council. So Republic of China, led by Chiang Kai-shek, is one of the founders of the United Nations. So it's one of the permanent members in the Security Council. Even after he was defeated and fled to Taiwan. So the US suggests that, well, you two, PRC and ROC, just remain in the UN and then you can both keep your seats. But Chiang Kai-shek has to give up the permanent seat. He refuses. He's very stubborn. He refuses to do this, refuses to use this as a bargaining chip to other countries, to persuade other countries to support him. Well, he just refuses to accept that until 1971, after Nixon visited China. He knows that, Chiang Kai-shek knows that, well, he will lose everything if he still do not accept that. But it's too late, too late. So China's allies, Albania, just have this resolution first and kick out Chiang Kai-shek. So just too late. It's a pity. So Chiang Kai-shek and the US fight for the UN's membership for 2 decades, but finally lost. So you see very happy China, PRC represented here, well, very happy, right? And this is our representative here, led by Foreign Minister Soochow, also the ambassador. Before the pass of the resolution, they announced that we will withdraw from UN, okay? Before the vote of this resolution. So this resolution is very important. Okay? The resolution states that, resolution 2758, recognizing the representative of the government of People's Republic of China are the only lawful representative of China. Okay, so, well, PRC is China, basically, recognized. And then, here's the most interesting thing. To expel, forthwith, the representative of Chiang Kai-shek from the place. Okay, so you see, is there any words here about Taiwan? No. Okay, there's nothing with Taiwan, nothing with Republic of China. Very interesting one. Okay. However, right now, in the past few years, China keep using this resolution to claim their sovereignty. They own the sovereignty of Taiwan, which is wrong, basically wrong, because this resolution does not have anything to do with Taiwan, right? However, China just keep using this and to force others to admit that, okay, according to this, they own Taiwan, and Taiwan is part of China, which is totally wrong. Okay. And the US Department of State and also the Congress starting to pass resolutions and to have some policies to fight back. Okay, you cannot use this to claim you have the sovereignty of Taiwan. Okay, so this is a diplomatic struggle. So, few years later, the US switched diplomatic tie to China, 1979. Well, because the US want to cooperate with China to come back with the Soviet Union. Soviet Union is a bigger threat at that time. So, at the same time, the Congress passed the Taiwan Relations Act. It is also a very rare case that a country, a Congress, pass a law to regulate its relationship with another political entity. Well, in the name of Taiwan Relations Act. It's a very, very, very rare case. Okay, so starting from that, the US has the so-called One China policy. The One China policy just saying that PRC is the only China, but the US does not specify the legal status of Taiwan. It's a purposely designed. And also, the core interest of the US is to oppose any unilateral change of the status quo. This is the core elements of the US strategy here in this region. oppose any unilaterally change. Unilaterally. Okay. In the Taiwan Relations Act, okay, this is a very special law, a domestic law. Okay. Firstly, it established an American Institute in Taiwan. The headquarters is in Washington, D.C. Well, it's in Arlington. It's near Washington, D.C. Okay. American Institute in Taiwan. Basically, it's a non-profit organization, non-governmental organization. I mean, the official status is that. However, all of the personnel there are from State Department. So before you enter the American Institute in Taiwan, you have to quit from your job from the State Department, and then you pretend yourself as a non-official official. It's a very special one. Our government also established another institution called 北美台湾事务协调委员会. It was a very long and very weird, something like a Council for Coordination of US-Taiwan something institution to have this parallels, the counterpart relationship. We pretend our relationship is not official, but actually it's official. Okay, it's a very special one. Okay, so it's an unofficial official tie, regulated by Taiwan Relations Act. Also, in the Taiwan Relations Act, it also regulates that all of the laws or legal systems that apply to a country or apply to a government, everyone apply to Taiwan. Okay, everyone. So basically, Taiwan is treated as it's a government or a country. Well, but the US does not recognize it officially. Well, it's a very special relationship here. Oh, and then in the Taiwan Relations Act, it also says that it concerns on the stability of the region and will maintain the capability of the capability to maintain the stability and peace in this region, and will provide necessary help for Taiwan, which is the foundation of the arms sales. Okay, so arms sales. And also later on, the President Reagan added a note, a secret note, classified note, saying that all of the quantities and qualities of the weapons sold to Taiwan is according to the threat level of the PLA. So if there's the threat level of PLA is higher, then the US will sell more advanced and more weapons to Taiwan. It's basically, it still applies today. So sometimes when Taiwan gets some advanced weapon system, we should be happy for that. Yeah, we can strengthen our capability. However, it also means that the threat is higher, so that we can get the more advanced weapon system. Okay. And because of China's isolation, the US became the only source that Taiwan can get national security equipment. The only source. Okay. It's because China just threatened others. Well, 2 or 3 decades ago, we can get some fighter jets from France, and we have some warships from France, but never happened again, because China's pressure is bigger. So right now, the only one source we can get the arms sales is from the US. So here's a China Policy 101. Okay, so everyone has to differentiate this term. One China principle and one China policy is totally different. So this China has a one China principle. Okay, one China principle, which means that there's 3 core elements here. There's only one China, and PRC is China. Well, this is simplified wording. So there's only one China, and PRC is the only lawful representative of the China government, something like that. Okay, and then the most important element is Taiwan is part of China. Okay, that is one China principle, and that principle is very important because China forced others to accept this everywhere. So this is the latest picture. I think I got it this morning. So everywhere, in every situations, every officials places, China will just emphasize this. in everywhere. So in WHA, World Health Assembly, in the I mean it's a well it's their correspondence press conference, and also this in Shangri-La's conference in Singapore, everywhere. Also, you can see this is from I think last year or 2 years ago, China just forced the private companies to accept the One China principle. For example, for the airlines, the foreign airlines, you cannot label Taiwan as a country. Okay, so when we get the flight tickets, then you click, then Taiwan, there's a Taiwan, right? Your destination, and Taiwan, you should always the province of China after Taiwan. You cannot place Taiwan as a destination for airlines. Okay, and then also it's for the a lot of different kinds of companies, the media, your clothes, and your even the furnitures. Every country, the destinations, and you cannot label Taiwan as a country or any. So you should always put Taiwan is part of China. Taiwan is a province of China. So it's everywhere, everywhere. So for the US, there's a One China policy. There's no principle, okay? So the first two are the same. There's only one China, PRC is China. Well, the same with One China principle, right? Here, you see, the first two is the same. Well, the first two is the same. But for the third one, Taiwan is part of China. The US just acknowledge China's position that Taiwan is part of China. It's a very well designed diplomatic language here, acknowledge. I think it's not invented by the US. The first one to use this is, I think it's Canada. Canada used to take notes of China's position. And some countries use acknowledge or understand or something like that. Okay, the verb is different, but similar. Acknowledge, it's not recognized. However, you are now learning Mandarin, right? How can you translate acknowledge? In Chinese version, in China government, they say 承认. 承认 is basically recognize. Acknowledge is 认知. I know. Okay, I know it. I understand that. I get it. Okay, so it's 认知到. Okay, I think it's a better translation is 认知到. But if you go to the AIT's, AIT is basically the State Department's website. You will only have the Chinese, the PRC version is 承认, so it's different. Okay, it's not 承认, it's not recognized, it's 认知. Okay, it's 认知. So there's three communiques the US signing with PRC. In this 1972, also known as Shanghai Communique, it says that the United States acknowledged that all Chinese on either side of the Taiwan Strait maintain there's about one China, and Taiwan is part of China. The United States does not challenge that position. There's two very important or interesting designs here. The first one is acknowledge, and the second one is all Chinese on either side of Taiwan Strait maintain there's but one China. But how about Taiwanese? You see that? How about the Taiwanese? In 1972, actually, nobody cares about the Taiwanese identity. Because that time in Taiwan, under the dictatorship, Chiang Kai-shek does not allow people to talk about Taiwanese identity. You will be put in jail. Okay, so there's an official nationalism. Everyone is Chinese, but in the process of liberalization, more and more people understand that we are no longer China, especially after we are kicked out by the United Nations. We are kicked out. We lost the allies, most of the diplomatic allies. We are no longer China. So more and more people starting to, develop or discuss about the Taiwanese identity. We are no longer China. We will never go back. We're living here, right? So, and purpose, I think it's designed purposely here. All Chinese on either side of the Taiwan Strait. It's not asking about Taiwanese opinion. So there's more, room here. Okay, we will talk about the Taiwanese identity later. Oh yes, here. This is a survey, long-term survey by National Zhengzhi University Election Study Center. So it's starting from 1992. Whoa. 1992 here, 1992. So the black one is non-response. The green one is, so the question is, when you are asking about whether you identify yourself as Taiwanese, Chinese, or both. You can be both Taiwanese and both Taiwanese and Chinese, right? So the purple one is purple. Wow. Purple one is the dual identity. So the percentage of people who says that you are both Taiwanese and Chinese here. And the blue one is Chinese, the only Chinese. You identify yourself as purely Chinese. And the green one is you are purely Taiwanese. So you can see in 1992, the pure Taiwanese is about 17%. It's a very small percent, right? But here's a huge growth here. It's about 60, 62, 63 here. And also, the survey is about, the population of this survey is people above 20. Because 20 is the age we can vote. So if you do the survey for the high school students, it's about 90%. 90% of people think we are purely Taiwanese. Okay, so the dual identity here is declining, and the pure Chinese is about, well, single digit, 2 or 3%. Very small, a very small number. So again, the US acknowledges that all Chinese on either side of the Taiwan Strait. How about Taiwanese? Never ask. So this is another interesting place of this joint communique, especially the first one, the Shanghai communique. Okay. Any questions so far? So, but how about Taiwan? So yeah, they ask the Chinese, they understand about the Chinese, but how about Taiwan? So basically, the KMT, we will talk about this later, but KMT just ruled for a very long time after 1959, 1949, and then the first time we have a party turnover is in the year 2000, so half a century. Under KMT, they also accept the so-called One China principle. The same with China, okay? The same with China, 一中原则. There's only one China. And the only difference is that they think that ROC is China. Okay, so let's turn back here. There's only one China, PRC is China, Taiwan is part of China, right? It's a one China principle of the PRC. But for KMT, there's only one China. The second one, ROC is China. This is the only difference here. They think that ROC, 中华民国, still the whole China, still represent the whole China. Their official position is still like this until today. And Taiwan is part of China. So during the year of Ma Ying-jeou administration from 2008 to 2016, he just reiterated again and again, under the name of so-called 1992 consensus. Okay, you will see a lot of times that in Taiwanese politics about 1992 consensus is basically one China principle. Okay, basically it's the same. It's the same. But for the ruling party, since 2016, President Tsai Ing-wen just denied the one China principle. Denied. Okay. So when Tsai Ing-wen made the inauguration speech, she says that we did have a meeting, the official meeting in the year 1992 between two sides. There's a meeting, but we do not reach any of the consensus. And there's no such thing as 1992 consensus. And there's no such thing as one China principle. China is very angry about that. So starting from 2016, China just stopped the tourists and also stopped from the students, students who can study here in Taiwan. Okay. So basically, well, the ruling party is still the same, right, here. So now we still deny the one China principle. Why? Remember why the U.S. decided decide the so-called undetermined status of Taiwan. If Taiwan is part of China, then other countries, according to international law, you cannot intervene any of the cross-strait relations because it is still a domestic issues between Taiwan and mainland China. Okay, so that's also why China wants to emphasize that Taiwan is part of China. And you can see all the official speakings of the Chinese officials, they always say that because Taiwan is part of China, other countries do not have the legal rights to intervene. They always say this. They say this everywhere. So I think this is a better choice for Taiwanese people, for Taiwanese government to fight back. Do not accept so-called one China principles, or else China can stop others helping Taiwan. Okay? Well, maybe we can have a 10 minutes break. Is that okay?
到时候会用汇款的方式，对。
看到哪边就要切，就这样。
就这样，谢谢老师。
谢谢。对，其实我们也不是服务，就是我们都是自愿。对，还有 podcast 也是。之
前都有发了。
还是每个礼拜有2集。
都是哈。
对啊，都在不务正业。
不会啊，你们也是很重要。
Okay, let's go back to this. So we just mentioned that one China principle of the PRC and also from KMT. But right now, Taiwan's government has denied the one China principle. So because of the historical legacy, we have some, well, I think it's problem here. For example, these are two national airlines of Taiwan. One is China Airlines, one is EVA Air. You can see that the China Airlines here was well, highly confusing, right? So, and also we cannot change that name. Why? Because if we change the name, we might risk losing all of the flight routes. Because every route we have to sign, we have to negotiate, right, for the flight pass. Because you have to fly over another country, you have to negotiate with them. And if you, I mean, that flight rights, then it's highly likely that we lose that if we renegotiate, because China will give them pressure and then will be problematic. So we cannot change that. We cannot. And long time ago, this logo is a national flag. Okay, but China just forced them to change this. EVA Air is a very big one for, also they are very big for the cargos. So when in the pandemic, Taiwan donated a lot of the supplies like masks and other medicines to all the world. But here you see that it's carried by China Airlines. So some of the media will say that, okay, it was China donated this. So, well, problematic again. So we have to use this Taiwan can help Taiwan here. It's not China. But, well, most of people all over the world just cannot tell the difference. So I like this very much. So we should say this, Taiwan not part of China Airlines here, just like this. We can paint that, right? We do not have to change the name, official name of the airlines, but we can maybe just paint that. But I doubt that China will accept it. Maybe China will be very angry about that. Okay. So again, the Americans' one China policy. So we see that it consists of several different documents. According to Taiwan Relations Act, 3 communiques with PRC. Also for 6 assurance. 6 assurance is when the U.S. signed the communique in 1982. So also the president gave Taiwan 6 more assurance, like including we will not force Taiwan to a negotiation with PRC, and we will not decrease the arms sales, and so on. And later, the Congress make this as formalize this 6 assurance. And also others. So the Americans' one China policy is highly flexible, including a lot of different things. Okay. And one of the most important principle that is not, well, specified in any words is the so-called strategic ambiguity. Okay. It is ambiguous on different things. The first thing is that there is no promise, no direct promise for a potential armed conflict here in the Taiwan Strait. So in the Taiwan Relations Act, it only says that the U.S. concerns the peace and stability in the region, and also it will maintain the capacity to maintain the order here. What is the capacity? And also it requires the Congress and the president to do something necessary, but it does not specify what is necessary. So it's ambiguous on the defense commitment to Taiwan. Why? Easy, because the U.S. does not want to give a blank check for the Taiwanese leaders. Right? You have to do more. You have to strengthen your own capability. Right? The U.S. does not want to maybe give you just a blank check. Also, the U.S. wants to increase the cost or the uncertainties of China. Well, we do not have to tell China what we will do. And China will maybe think twice before using something like an armed conflict. So this is the original purpose. And the U.S. does not specify the legal status of Taiwan. It also is unclear about the future plan. So it's so-called strategic ambiguity. However, there's a lot of debates on whether the U.S. should do more, because China is not that China anymore. I mean, PRC is becoming very strong in terms of the military capability. So maybe it's not useful anymore to this ambiguous strategy. So there's a very big debate. Yeah, please. I will mention that, thanks. Immediately. So President Biden stated 4 times that the U.S. has a commitment to defend Taiwan if China invades. And especially this time is big because in another situation, it's about, maybe the journalists will ask, also in a town hall meeting with college students, he said that, oh yes, we have a commitment. So everyone just not take it very seriously, right? But this situation is very big. It's an international conference, press conference with Japan's prime minister. I think it's in last year or 2022. The journalist asked that, well, what will the U.S. do if the China use force against Taiwan? He said that we have a commitment. And the journalist just cannot believe that, so he asks again, you do? You have the commitment? Yes, we do. I mean, the president says that. So, but after that, you will always say that, always see the White House and the State Department will say this again. So every time when the president says something, then the White House and the State Department will say that, oh, our policy is not changed. according to Taiwan Relations Act, communicated 6 experience, then we have not changed. Okay, every time you will see this every time, just like a Bible or something. So you will always say that. Okay, so we will quote this every time. So it's unchanged, but it is changing, right? It is changing. So the strategic ambiguity is less ambiguous, but more strategic. Okay, I like this slogan by Washington Post. So less ambiguous and more strategic. So President Biden said just four times about this. And all of the policies about strengthen the military cooperation in this whole region, not only for Taiwan, because it's very easy, because China is growing too fast. Okay. So basically, in the past few decades, the U.S. maintains a close relationship, including economic cooperation. So this is very important because the U.S. and Japan together and bring up all of the economic growth in the East Asian countries, including Asian Tigers Miracle. So we see a very fast economic growth era in Taiwan, Hong Kong, South Korea, and Singapore. Most of the technologies and the markets are from US and Japan. So basically, because of some upgrade, industrial upgrade in the US, and then the US just upgrade to another generation, and then the older generation's technology, where they will give to share to their allies in East Asia, and then we do for the manufactured one. So in 1960s and 70s, all of the products, in the US, in the supermarket, in the retails, is mostly from Taiwan. Okay, but right now we upgrade to another level. So arms sales, national security aids, and also the defense promise, ambiguous promise. So the US is starting to engage with China because it wants to compete with the Soviet Union, and also there is a theories. Academics has a whole theory about how when you engage with a dictatorship, then the dictatorship will go through a liberalization and democratization someday. So there's a hope for China's liberalization for at least 3 or 4 decades. They finally failed and officially abandoned the engagement policy in 2021 in Biden's administration. Firstly, to make money with China, to do business in China is not their original purpose, because back in the 1970s, China's economy is still very, in the very beginning the stage. So this one is not the main concern. But later, it becomes the main concern, because after the year 2000, China joins WTO, then it becomes a world factory and world main market. Everyone has to do business in China. So after 2000, in the year 2000, and also there's a war on terrorism, right? The war on terrorism. So the US switched all of the focus to the Middle East region. So, and in China, just do business. So under this context, Taiwan becomes not very important in that context for the US. And then in 2008, there's a financial crisis. So the US asked China to help to save the market, the stock market in the US. And then there's Beijing Olympics in 2008. So you can see this, China becomes overconfident on their development, overconfident. Well, we have the Olympics. The US asked us to help, right? And then something become wrong. So under the Obama administration, I think it's in 2011 or 2012, some people starting to argue that, well, China is, well, we should be aware of their development. So firstly, economy over-dependent is always not a good thing, right? Your economy is over-dependent on China's market. Also, there's a growing ambition, military expansion, especially in South China Sea. In 2011, 2012, they're starting to build up military islands in South China Sea. Also, there's more and more economic cases of espionage. Also, the American companies find that you have to willingly transfer your technology if you want to do business in China. It's required, okay? So if you are a company that you want to invest in China, you have to have a partnership with China's companies. And then you are required to willingly transfer your technology with your partner. Willingly, okay? But if you do not do so, you cannot do business there. The only exception? What is 例外? The only one exception, yeah. So the only exception for this is there's only one company that they can do business by their own in China. Do you know which one is that? There's only one company. What? It's Tesla. Tesla. Okay. But you now see how competitive is China's electronic vehicles, right? They just basically steal a lot of technology from international companies. So more and more companies, they are no longer willing to lobby for China policies. So the US starting to review their policies on China, starting from Obama administration. They finally come up with a so-called pivot to Asia policy. Okay, pivot to Asia policy. It's on 2015, I think. And the man who are in charge of it is Kurt Campbell, which is now the Vice Secretary of State right now. Kurt Campbell, yeah, Mr. Campbell. But still that time everyone just do business in China. It's still okay at that time. So here comes this book. I highly recommend this book. Highly readable. It's highly easy to read. Very interesting to read. They explore why the US-China relationship just changed so dramatically. Okay, so firstly, you see the unfair economic competition. So under the globalization, a lot of companies just moved their factory to China, right? So this is by nature. And also there's unfair economic competition. So China just invest in their companies by the state-owned enterprises, and there's an unfair competition. So for example, if you Google the price of the smartwatch, you can see the gap of the price of the Xiaomi and the Apple Watch. It's huge price gap. Why can they build up this, sell this incredible low price to you? Because they have the subsidies from the government. So it's unfair. And also Xiaomi just steal a lot of technology from others. So do you see the vehicle, the electronic vehicle of Xiaomi? It's basically the same with Porsche. I mean, you look at almost the same, right? They just steal a lot of things. And also, the second factor is Mr. Trump. He dramatically changed the Americans' China policy. And that time, when Trump took power, a lot of people do not perceive that China is a big threat. But however, he just changed it. Well, he's so dramatic on every dimension, right? So because dramatic change, especially, I would mention that later. The most important part, I think, is China's authoritarian turn. So can you see any of the difference here? This is the Renmin Zhibao, the most important official papers of China. Do you see their term, their switch of the leadership turnover? In 2007, when Hu Jintao's second term, and from here to here, their group of leaders, what is the difference here? Can you see that? So Hu Jintao is among one of the equals in their highest level of leadership, right? They are equal. You can see every face is here. So this system is designed by Deng Xiaoping. Okay, Deng Xiaoping just designed here because he knows that the flow of the authoritarian regime is always the party's leadership turnover. There's no mechanism for the turnover. In democracy, we have elections, right? Always peaceful turnover. But there's no such turnover there. So he decided to make everyone equal in the top leadership. But Xi Jinping just reversed that. Do you see that? Only him. You cannot see any of the faces here. There's no collective leadership anymore. Destroyed. destroyed by Xi Jinping. What? Anti-corruption. Yeah, it's part of it. So he claims that only by concentrating the power he can do more. Okay, like come back with the corruption and use that. He just removed a lot of potential successors under the name of anti-corruption. So it's just of tools. I mean, anti-corruption is just of tools for him. Well, it is indeed that, well, there's a lot of corruption issues there, but he just do it too much. Yeah. So he reversed this collective leadership system. And you can see that every time when there's a leadership change, there's an equal one. I mean, everyone is equal, the collective action. Deng Xiaoping is here, Deng Xiaoping. Zhang Zemin to Hu Jintao to Xi Jinping. And then Xi Jinping. Well, everyone is, I mean, Xi Jinping is everyone, okay? So you can see that when Xi Jinping took power in 2012, the economies still have expectations. Well, there's a lot to do. We don't understand who he is. And then in 2018, we know that he's emperor. So emperor means that he's just, well, he can control everything, okay? And because of this, more and more people, so there's a turn in 2018. I mean, I was in the Washington, I live in Washington, D.C. that time, from 2015 to 2021. So I just witnessed the dramatic change of the atmosphere among the media, especially the liberal medias, including New York Times, Washington Post, and a lot of liberal medias. Because, I mean, when Trump took power, it's a little bit chaotic transitions, and media just criticize Trump a lot. So, including the China policies. The media just cannot trust Trump. Well, I think that you should separate from international policies and the domestic one, but or maybe not for the media, not the case for media. So after 2018, when Xi Jinping formally destroyed the term limits, then all of the media just waken up. So they suddenly realize that, okay, China is a threat. Xi Jinping will be a leader forever. And he is expanding the powers and ambitions. They are very threatening. So the liberal medias, well, who originally anti-Trump, starting to criticize China more and more. And the atmosphere the China policy become a consensus in the US. Everyone thinks that China is a threat. Everyone. I mean, not everyone, 80%, okay? 70, 80% is a very low. It's a very high percentage. And more research also find that China's threat is not only about military, but also from our daily lives. It's called sharp power. So it's about the gray zone. Sometimes you can violate the law. For example, China will buy the influence of the media, buy the influence from the scholars. So you can see a lot of FBI charges on how some prominent scholars taking money from China and maybe to receive China's students, something like that. Okay, sharp power. So formally, in 2019, the US have this Indo-Pacific strategy. So firstly, it is proposed by Japanese former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. He persuaded Mr. Trump to have this strategy. And finally, there's one here. And then President Biden also has one. Basically the same. Okay, basically the same. So, well, not the same, but I mean, the attitudes toward China is the same, but approaches are a little bit different. So, Indo-Pacific strategy is basically how the US align with the allies and adopt the whole of government approach to contain China, basically. You can see this. Indo-Pacific, well, the Indo-Pacific region, all of this, against the so-called One Belt, One Road initiative, Belt and Road initiative. So Belt and Road initiative is basically China's plan of investment, a lot of money to a lot of countries there for infrastructure to buy more influence. For the US, so this is firstly proposed by Shinzo Abe, and then the US, and then a lot of US allies. So many countries has now their own version of Indo-Pacific strategy. Okay. So the difference between Biden and Trump is that Mr. Biden adopts more multilateral approach, but Mr. Biden prefers more bilateral approach. That is the biggest difference. So in Trump's language, he always want to negotiate with others, one by one. But for Biden, he prefers a multilateral approach. So you can see that always there's a alliance or something. So this is in the very beginning of his term, in 2021. Okay, he always says that we have to build up an alliance, a multilateral ones, allies. These are the most frequently used terms. The State of Union address this year, with standing up against China's unfair economic practice and standing up for peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Well, this is the very first time of State of Union address given by a president mentioning about peace and stability across Taiwan Strait. So you can see that this region is now the top priority of the US, very important one. And this is from AIT. AIT is basically now the Department of State is the same. So it's not only about the military one, but also to prevent China from getting the most advanced chips and also technologies. Okay, so far, is there any questions? Okay, I will move on. So why China wants to unify Taiwan? Can you imagine any of the, well, we can have very quick answer for that. Well, it's nationalism, right? Taiwan belongs to the motherland, and we should unify that. And unification is always very good. I mean, historically, China always, in the ancient time, China always pursued for unification. Yeah. Also, there's a sentiment there in China that's called fight for imperialism from the West. I mean, I don't know whether this translation is okay, but that's called 百年国耻. There's shame for 100 years, starting from the late 20th centuries, 1890s, 1890s, is that 19th century, okay? The late 19th centuries. So starting from the end of the Qing dynasty, China just get lost to a lot of battles with Western countries. Yeah, sorry. So starting from the 2008, they started to feel that the century for the Chinese is coming. You see the Olympics and also the US financial crisis. China's economy is so good. Economic fast growth, also 10% of GDP growth every year. So nationalism is coming. Also, they described Unified Taiwan as a sacred mission. It's becoming one of the sources of their legitimacy of the ruling. So they even write this into their party charter. Okay, can you imagine a party charter that is to unify, to invade Taiwan? But to me, the most important part is not this, because it's not sentimental. It's not, well, there's no concrete advantage for them, right? But the most important one is on the geopolitical factor here. What is that? It's a map of Taiwan, and this is the depth of the ocean. Can you see that? In Taiwan's, what is the meaning of this map? If China take over Taiwan, which means that there's a port here in Soochow. They can have a deep water port. They do not have any of the deep water port in China's coast. Okay, they do not have anyone. So if they have Taiwan, Soochow here may be the only one deep water port for China's Navy. And does that mean? I mean, most of you are going to serve in the military, right? So from the deep water port, then you cannot detect the submarines. Okay, so if you want to have the effective submarines, or your submarines will be threatening the US, then you have to get this. Or else, if you, I mean, for China's, from any of their naval base, then the US can easily detect their submarines, which means your submarine is useless, right? So if they get this, well, it's a big trouble for the US, very big trouble, okay? So it's a gate to the Pacific Ocean, here in Soochow. Well, you can have a visit there and have some seafood, very good there, okay? Yilan, take a train there, Soochow. There's no port here because it's very steep. So there's no port here in eastern Taiwan. So Soochow is a very important port here. Okay. Also, there's two more gates here. So I purposely take a picture from China's website. These are the gates to the Pacific. One is called Miyako Strait, Gonggu Haixia, Miyako Strait. And one is called Bashi Haixia, the southern Taiwan, Bashi Haixia. So China has several military bases here, naval bases here, from here, and this island. So everyone has to go through this gate. If they want to go to the South China Sea, they will go through this here and from here, because of the depth of the ocean. So the two most important gates here. So that's why China wants to take over Taiwan. Besides the emotional factors, this is the most concrete factors for them. So in 2019, Xi Jinping just, pushes a lot for unification, pushes very hard. And the estimation of the US is now that it's not the when question, it's not whether or not. So General Davison, the former head of the Indo-Pacific, in the hearing, he said that before 2027, the most likely time is 2027. Why? Why is this the number? Yeah, please. The 100th anniversary of CCP, yeah, that's enough. And also, because Xi Jinping said this, okay, Xi Jinping ordered their military to be ready before 2027. Well, ready is not meaning that they will use force, but they are ready. They can use that anytime, right? So it's an order, it's an order. And also because in 2027, Xi Jinping is going to pursue his fourth term. It's 5 years a term, right? And this year is the fourth term. You have to do something to persuade others to make you the fourth term. Do something, okay? So this is a highly likely time this is why General Davison's, and we call it Davison's window, okay? And for me, I think there's another quote by a Japanese scholar. I like it very much. So how can we see, how should we see this timing? So his quote is that, well, it's in Mandarin, but so if we believe in this, if we believe that there will be a war, there will be no war. Why? Because if we believe that there will be a conflict, then we will be prepared for that, and we can deter China of using force. If we believe there's no war, there will be a war, because we will not prepare for that, and China will not be deterred. Okay, that's a Japanese scholar, Songtian Kampo. I don't know how to pronounce in English, but Songtian Kampo is an expert in Taiwan, for Taiwan and China politics. I say it again. So if we believe there's a war in Taiwan Strait, then there will be no war. If we believe there's no war, then there will be a war. It's a quote, okay? Because we have to prepare for that. We have to deter China of using force. So what is the US doing right now? So US building up the alliance the Quad, the US, Australia, India, and Japan. So firstly, well, again, proposed by Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, the former Prime Minister. Quad. AUKUS is from the US, UK, and Australia. Basically, it's a build up a team of submarine, nuclear submarine. So what is the difference of nuclear submarine and the traditional submarine? Yeah, please.
Nuclear submarines, we say submarines for much longer. They don't have to.
Oh yes, correct. Yes, so they can sail for much longer. And originally, they are buying the submarine from France, and they abolished that. France is very angry, but they abolished that and re-adopt another team of the nuclear submarine. They can sail more, they can sail longer, so that they can reach the Taiwan Strait. Okay, so now the US and UK is now helping Australia to build up a submarine team that can reach the Taiwan Strait. Also, the US is establishing 4 more bases in the Philippines. There's a naval base, airport, and here, 4 more bases. And also, this is a very difficult one. So, Japanese Prime Minister and the Korean President. Why is this so difficult? Because Japan and Korea hate each other. Okay, hate. From after the World War II. They hate each other. They sue each other. Their governments sue each other all the time because they are pursuing for the crime, the war crime, and also for the comfort woman, a lot of problems of that. But Mr. Biden successfully made this meeting last year, and also just last week, the vice Secretary of State and the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of US, Japan, and Korea just met last week at Mr. Kurt Campbell's house in Washington, D.C. Well, it's a very difficult task because before that, the two countries are in very bad relationship. Okay, so it's successfully made that. So what is the US doing? Well, I lost something here, but you can see that the US strengthening the ties here, the Japan and South Korea, more cooperation with Taiwan, a lot of more troops here and the military bases here. So it's strengthening the so-called first island chain in order to contain China. And the Department of Defense, strengthen deterrence in Taiwan Strait. It's now one of the most important policy of the U.S. So there's related questions. The Koreans and Taiwanese attitudes on Japan are very different. Can you see that? You can see Japanese language school everywhere in Taiwan, and also you can see Japanese movies, dramas, and animations, products everywhere in Taiwan. Taiwanese people like to go to Japan for travel a lot. But Koreans do not like Japanese. Why? So there's a comparison. So after 1945, people of Taiwan feel happy to return to China. Return to Chiang Kai-shek at that time. But soon they find it a difficult time. Especially in 1947, there was a 228 incident in February 28th incident, and then following by 2 months of slaughter. KMT, Chiang Kai-shek, sent the troops here because of a lot of problems of rulings, corruptions, and the language problem. Because that time, Taiwanese people do not speak Mandarin; they speak Japanese and Taiwanese. But KMT's from outside, the outsiders, rulers. Newcomers, and then there's a lot of conflicts, and then following by slaughters, big slaughters. And then there's a record-long martial law era, 4 decades. Well, when it ends, it's still the longest in the world, but later another country, Syria, broke the length. Okay, but still a very long time, almost 4 decades, martial law era. and there's a defeated KMT to Taiwan in 1949. So they are defeated. They are all, I mean, people are just disappointed. People are expecting to return to their motherland, but here comes the slaughters and terrible rulers. So people starting to maybe some of them starting to stay or think of the Japanese rules are better than KMT, much better than KMT, although it's a colony. And at the same time, Koreans also colonized by Japan. But, well, when Koreans colonized by Japan, they have already built up their countries for a very, very long time. In the 7th century, there's a Korean empire in the peninsula. So there's a consolidated identity of Koreans. But in 1945, the Taiwanese identity is not yet forming, because Taiwan has been ruled by so many different rulers, by Spain, by Netherlands, by Qing dynasty, Ming dynasty and Qing dynasty from China, and also by Japan. There's no such thing as a Taiwan identity. So there's no feelings that we are destroyed. I mean, our country is destroyed. There's no feeling like that. But for Koreans, there's a shame that their country is destroyed by and colonized by outsiders. So there's a different feelings there. And also there's a comparison. So Taiwanese people are very kind to Japan. And also because Chiang Kai-shek cooperated with Japanese. Chiang Kai-shek invited the Japanese to train the military. Okay, so Taiwan and Japan is in very good relationship right now. So they do not have to spend so many years and so many efforts of doing this. So Mr. Biden, it's very successful diplomacy here. So another interesting question here. Why Koreans and Taiwanese liberals, am I spelling it right? Liberals. Attitudes on US are so different. So the Korean liberals or Democrats or democratic activists do not like Americans. But Taiwanese people, liberals, democratic activists like the US. It's totally different. Why? So you can see that now the ruling party of Korea is seen as conservatives. They are highly pro-US. So the oppositions, the Democrats, the liberals are not, they are more pro-China or pro North Korea. The difference is coming from, do I have a slide? Yes. So this is Chiang Kai-shek, his son Jiang Jingguo. They ruled for a very long time. Actually, we see that the US switched the diplomatic ties in 1970s, right? It just officially abandoned Chiang Kai-shek regime. But the US kept their support for Korean dictators until the very last moment in 1989. Why? Because the threat from the North Korea is much more than the threat from mainland China, because we have a Taiwan Strait there. Okay, it's buffered the immediate threat from China. But North Korea is just too close to the South Korea, and also there's no buffer. So you have to maintain a high level of control. You have to maintain a high size, very big size of the military. You have to maintain the absolute control over the society. Or else, they fear, well, in theory, their theory, they argue this, they have to maintain a high level of control. But for Taiwanese case, well, it's relatively safe, relatively. And starting from late 1970s, 1980s, the US starting to help the Taiwanese democratic activists to give more pressure to the dictators. And in the end, it helped democratizations and to lift the martial law. The US Congress passed the resolution to pressure Jiang Jingguo to open up for parties, for political oppositions, and for the newspapers, and for freedom of press. So, well, because the US just helped a lot for Taiwanese democratic activists, but the US supported dictators to suppress democratization in South Korea. So there's a very different attitudes in two countries. So also in 1979, there's the Taiwan Relations Act. There's elements there to say that the U.S. should help to promote the human rights in Taiwan. So this is another important ties between Taiwan and the U.S. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So for Taiwan, Taiwan became democratized in 1990s. In 1992, we have the first parliamentary election, universal election in 1992. In 1996, there's a first presidential election. Well, so Taiwan is still a new, very young democracy. And Taiwan, during this democratization, we no longer pursue for unification because we know that we elect our own leaders, our own government for Taiwan itself, not for the mainland China. Okay. Our parliament, our Congress is having the old, very old congresspersons from mainland China until 1992. Okay, there's no replacement at all. So, but Taiwan still have the very close economic, social-economic ties with China, and the CCP threat will going on. Okay. Taiwan's party politics is always like this. So the pen blue side and the pen green side. Sometimes I envy the debates in other countries. Like in the US, you always have the liberal conservative debate. Well, you can debate on a lot of issues like tuitions, a lot, right? However, in Taiwan, you should remember that every debate will going back to the China factors. Everyone, every debate. So it's divided by the China factors, the attitudes on China. So the pen green side here, led by the main party DPP, is coming from the authoritarian era, so-called 党外, it's outside the party. That is, they established in 1986. Well, under the pressure of the U.S., the U.S. Warned Jiang Jingguo, you cannot execute them. You should allow them to establish in 1986. And the martial law was lifted in 1987. So in year 2000, there's a smaller party, pro-Taiwan independent party, another one, Taiwan State Building Party, or New Power Party here. You can generally categorize here. Well, 时代力量 here is a special case, but in terms of the China factor, you can categorize them here. Here we have the main party KMT, the long-term authoritarian party. After that, it survived and then still dominates in the local level. So still dominates. So they still have the 17 of the 22 county and the mayorship right now. So dominates. Because the KMT is one of the highest organized authoritarian ruling party in the world. The same with Mexico's PRI and also Indonesia's Golkar. This is some of the prominent cases. Smaller parties like New Power Party 1996, they are highly pro-China right now. The KMT's vice presidential candidate was one of the political stars from Xindang this time, in this election. And then they came back to KMT later. Kuomintang is another party split from KMT. So basically they are the same. Another party here is also split from KMT. So this one is very special. Taiwan People's Party, very special, led by Ko Wen-je. Originally, Ko Wen-je was a doctor, independent, have a lot of discriminative languages, and highly controversial. But he's this phenomenon of we can call it a populist politician, is everywhere in the world, so it's not so unique. But here is in Taiwan's case, it's Ko Wen-je. And originally in 2014, Ko Wen-je rises because of the help from DPP. So under the help of DPP, they defeat KMT's candidates in Taipei. Taipei is a stronghold of KMT, stronghold. So that time, after the Sunflower movement, I don't know whether we have time to do that, but yeah, after the Sunflower movement, it's a mass protest against a trade deal with China and stormed into the legislature and occupied the legislature for a month. Okay, so Ko Wen-je just rises, and then he decided to organize his own party and organize as a third option. He advertised as a third option for Taiwanese people. He thinks that we are so tired of China factor, we should not talk about it anymore. Okay, and well, they performed pretty well. They got 3 million votes in the presidential election. However, right now in the legislature, they are closely cooperating with KMT. So we can put them here. Okay, they are closely cooperating with KMT right now. There's another political star named Huang Guochang. He was from Shidai Lidian originally, also helped by DPP before. And he switched to here and then closely cooperate with KMT as well. So there's a split here from a smaller party, and then the smaller party split here and cooperate with KMT right now. Well, maybe we have a 10 minutes break, and then we'll go back to this picture. Hello. 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 Okay. Let's move on. So this is the picture I just showed previously about Taiwanese identity. So the green one is the pure Taiwanese identity. The people identify themselves as Taiwanese only. The dual identity here, and the Chinese identity is the blue one. So there's some important factors here. You see a dramatic change. So the first one is in, I think 1993, 94. There's a Qiandao Lake, Qiandaohu incident in China. So in 1990s, in 1992, you remember that there was a meeting, official meeting, the first official meeting after the Civil War. So the two sides agreed that to open up to some non-political activities like tourists, stand, the postal office, and the business. Okay, and in here, Qiandaohu is a lake. It's a lake in China, the mainland China. So there's a group of Taiwanese people traveled there, got killed, and killed everyone, just killed a group of people. And then the Chinese government at that time just covered up everything, and immediately just buried all of them. I mean, literally buried all of them. If you are following China's news, you will see this very typical China's reaction to big disasters. They will bury all of the bodies immediately. Okay, so in every situation like this. So a group of people just killed, and Taiwanese people are just shocked. Well, just shocked. Okay, so that time is maybe the first time we witness how China is different from Taiwan. So there's a dramatic change here, and a dramatic drop on the China's identity. And then in 1995, China launched a very big military drill around Taiwan because there will be a presidential election in 1996 here, 1996. So we see that after 1996, there's a huge increase on the Taiwanese identity. Because this is the first time we have a presidential election, we can make our own decisions. So here, there's a big increase here, and keep decreasing the trend of the China's identity. Well, the dual identity just remained relatively stable. Okay, and then in the year of 2000, there's a first party turnover. DPP just won, okay, by accident, because there's a split of KMT and almost win. Okay. So DPP just won by a very small margin. President Chen Shui-bian. And you can see that time is the struggle of the Taiwanese identity throughout his two terms, from 2000 to 2008. But you can also see a steady decline of the Chinese identity here. President Ma Ying-jeou here in 2008 came to power. He is highly pro-China. He is from KMT, but however, you can see a sharp increase in the Taiwanese identity. So sometimes we will make joke that the pro-China Ma Ying-jeou is actually kind of the master of Taiwan independence. We make joke for that. Why is it the case here? So firstly, because of the election, because of democratization, even though you are a pro-China politician or pro-China parties, you have to show you are pro-Taiwan. So in the election, there's a rhetoric always about Taiwan. We are Taiwanese, new Taiwanese, we love the land, and I don't know why because KMT is always seen as the outsiders, the outside regime. So they have to show, they have to prove very hard that they do love Taiwan. So their classical thing is to, their politicians will knee on the ground and to kiss the land. It's a very strange thing there, but they have to show that they do love this land. Okay, and also Ma Ying-jeou, he says that he is a new Taiwanese. He's Taiwanese. Okay, so if you are ordinary people, you see the pro-China, self-identify as Chinese, they say that they are Taiwanese, a political star, a popular star. Then, more and more people are starting to say that, okay, we are Taiwanese. There's a sunflower movement here. So after Ma Ying-jeou took power, there's more and more mass protests and protests against that his China policy because he's too close to China and open up everything to China. And 10 years ago, when you visit China, when you visit Taiwan, and every popular spot, every popular tourist spot everywhere is crowded by Chinese. Everywhere. I mean, Chinese people are just too many. And so the quality of our tourism just hit a record low. But yeah, but Ma Ying-jeou administration says that we can make more money for that. So people are just against this, just have negative evaluation. And the sunflower movement is a big protest to stop the signing of the trade deal with China. If there's no sunflower movement, then I can guarantee that right now Taiwan may be part of China because, for example, we will no longer have TSMC, we will no longer have NVIDIA, so many important companies, the high-tech companies, because that time we stopped of the investment. We do not allow China to invest in our service industry, including high-tech industry. So if there's no sunflower movement, then we will no longer, I mean, the geopolitical situation right now for the whole world will be highly different. Okay, Taiwan is no longer the team of USA. It's no longer the case. So, and then in 2016, there's no surprise that there's another party turnover. So the DPP just took power again. And also, it's the first time DPP have the majority in the legislature in 2016. You see there's a slight decline here for the Taiwanese identity. I have a paper for that because it was very weird that because DPP took power, then China just increased the threat on Taiwan. So people will say that maybe we should avoid to express anything that will anger China, something like that. So there's a slight decrease. And then we see a push for unification by China. It's an overconfident Xi Jinping. And I mean, Xi Jinping just destroyed the term limits in 2018. So there's more and more people starting to express Taiwanese identity, and also Hong Kong protests in 2019. Okay, Hong Kong is that protest is very big to Taiwan because Hong Kong's system of one country, two system is originally designed for Taiwan. Okay, so in 1980s, China just offers this project to Jiang Jingguo. I mean, China just offers that, okay, we will give you everything you want and maintain everything. It's called one country, two systems. So Taiwan can maintain all of the systems, except for the military. I mean, except for that. And but Jiang Jingguo just rejected. And then, because Hong Kong just returned to China in late 1990s, so China just applied this one country, two system to Hong Kong and to Macau. So, and China just guaranteed Hong Kong that they can maintain for 50 years. But after 23, 24 years, everything just changed. So again, you cannot trust the CCP. Okay, CCP has signed a treaty, an international treaty with UK about to maintain the status of Hong Kong for 50 years. Okay, but they just do not follow that. So any kinds of the international convention, I mean, China will not comply to that. I mean, there's a golden rule that everyone should know. So for the past few decades, there's still other changes that we call it conditional tongdu. So yeah, we ask people for different conditions. If people support Taiwan independence, will declare the independence if China will not attack. Well, 70% of people support this. If you are favoring Taiwan independence, even if China will attack, about 30%. So you see that if you are the Chinese officials, then you know that you should keep threatening Taiwan. You should keep threatening that they will use force, right? Because if you are not going to threat Taiwan, then a lot of people will, support the so-called totally legally or de jure independence. Okay, so China's military threat, for them, for China, they still think that is necessary. The biggest change is here. When we ask people whether they favor unification if only small political, economic, and social disparities between two sides, then only 30%, less than 30% of people support. And 20 years ago, it's 60%. So you see here, from 20 years ago, a lot of people, if the two sides of Taiwan and China is only small difference, then a lot of people support. But less and less people now support this option. So this is a favor unification even if great disparity in the future, 20%. So this is a map or category I invented. So it's basically to test whether you, whether you support. And I just categorize Taiwan's parties in their positions from the deep, here is a red one. Red one means that you support unification with CCP immediately. We also have the traditionalists, which is that you insist that ROC, Republic of China, is still the authentic China, which is the traditional KMT position here. And we also have the light blue here, which means that you basically not saying, not seek for Taiwan independence, but you do not want to unify with China. You just want to maybe maintain something in the middle. We have light green here, which means that you think Taiwan is already independent under the name of ROC. Okay, under the name of ROC. Here we have the deep green, which means that they deny the legitimacy of ROC. They do not think ROC is a legitimate government, and they want to build up a new one, a whole new Republic of Taiwan. Okay. This one, light green, is the current position of Taiwan, the current position of DPP. They basically, they basically think that ROC, Republic of China, equivalent to Taiwan. So if you see the inauguration speech by President Lai Ching-te, he says that whether our name is Republic of China, Taiwan, or Taiwan, every name is the same. Every name is shiny. He just said this. So, and basically the same. Okay, so basically the same. So another interesting thing that if you hear the inauguration speech or any of the speech by President Tsai Ing-wen and President Lai Ching-te, they will see that our history, our 70 years history. So 70 years, when is that begin? 1949. Okay, 70 years history. So they basically think that since 1949, we are another country, we are another ROC, different from the original one, established in 1912. Okay, if we count for 1912, then we should have a 100-year history. But in President Tsai Ing-wen and Lai Ching-te, and also in DPP, the current DPP's view, our history starts from 1949. Okay. So you can maybe practice this later. So we put this in a section. We see that in 2018, I do a survey for that. So the deep green, people who denies the legitimacy of ROC is about 30%. 32% of people support the light green, that is the current government's position. And a lot of people still think that we should maintain status quo, that's doing nothing. Don't do anything because maybe it will anger China. There's a crisis here. So the traditionalists, ROC, traditionalist Republic of China supporters are less than the red one. The red one is you support CCP's position. So there's a crisis here. And also here is a successful CCP's campaign. So this is a spread of the Taiwanese public opinion. So if you put it this section for Taiwanese party politics, you can see the mainstream here is DPP here, and for the DPP, especially Tsai Ing-wen, she got 8 million votes in the re-election because she appeals to a lot of people in the middle. So KMT's candidates is kind of people toward this side, more toward China. And Ma Ying-jeou, when he was the president, he is in here, the legitimate, the authentic one. But after he retires, he's more likely to emphasize that he's more willing to cooperate with CCP. So the KMT is moving toward this side. There's just an extreme one. It's gangsters here, a lot of gangsters here. CCP just use them to promote unification and do a lot of activities, violent activities. And we have some smaller parties here in the deep green side. For Ko Wen-je, we mentioned that he's a special case. In 2014, he was helped by DPP, right? And then at that time, he claimed that he's a deep green. He self-declared as a deep green, okay? Deep green here. And then when he was a Taipei city mayor, he started to say a lot of things is pro-China. And so he's moving toward this side and strategically because he wants to appeal to more pro-KMT voters strategically. Yeah, and now they are cooperate closely with KMT, so they are moving close to this side. So maybe I will spend the last couple of minutes to this question. In terms of international law, is Taiwan an independent country? So international law, it's not a political question, it's an international law. So according to this convention, Montevideo Convention on Rights and Duties of States, so there's 4 elements, 4 requirements of the states. So permanent population, defined territory, government, and the capacity to enter into relations with other states. So you see this. So for Taiwan, we have everything. Right? We have the four requirements, right? And these four elements are very different before and after 1949. So that's why people argue that before and after 1949, there are 2 different countries because of the elements are all different, okay? But still, Taiwan is not universally recognized. It's a political question. It's a political problem because of China's isolation, because of a lot of different things. But according to international law, it seems that we should have been a sovereignty country, right? But the international law scholars also says that Taiwan is still a sui generis, the de facto entity. It's almost an entity, but not an independent one, because we are still regarded as part of China. And James Crawford is a big, very important scholar, says that a state can only be recognized as what it claims to be. And under KMT, they still claim to be China, not Taiwan. Right? They still claim that we are China. We are still belong to China. So under KMT. So the question is, under DPP, is there any difference? Okay, is there any difference? So we democratized in 1990s, and that is the first one. The most important thing is that all the representatives, all the congressmen and the government are from Taiwan, not from mainland China. That's the first one. And President Li Denghui, he states a special state-to-state relationship to describe Taiwan and China. So we no longer claim that we are all China, right? Starting from Li Denghui. And then President Chen Shui-bian says that Taiwan and China, on each side of the Taiwan Strait, each side is a country. We are a country, they are a country, each side is a country. Okay, so it's very clear that we are no longer China anymore. And Chen Shui-bian in 2007, he applies to enter the UN. So note that using Taiwan as a name to apply to the US. So some people, some scholars think that it's almost a declaration of independence, almost one. But well, Chen Shui-bian is not, well, at that time, there's a lot of political scandals, corruptions, a lot of charges. So, well, nobody really cares about this. But international law scholars still think that it's a very important activities because we claim we are an independent country and apply to enter UN. Of course, we are blocked by China, but it's almost a declaration of independence. Some scholars think so. President Tsai Ing-wen in 2021, she argues 4 commitments, which includes Republic of China and People's Republic of China are not subordinate to each other, and Taiwan should insist on the democratic systems. So almost, again, it's a one country in each side. Well, it's a different wording, but basically it's we are not subordinate to each other. So maybe we can use this to reply to these scholars that, well, Taiwan is not China anymore. We are not claiming to be China anymore, so we claim to be Taiwan. Maybe in the international law, we are already an independent state. Okay. But for KMT, they still insist on 1992 consensus and the One China principle, which means that Taiwan is part of China. So in terms of legal meanings or legal context, then it means Taiwan is part of China means that the conflicts in the Taiwan Strait will become an internal affair, so that other country cannot intervene, which is now China's propaganda all around the world. And for the Freedom House evaluation, China is 9 out of 100, and Taiwan is 94 out of 100. A huge difference here. That's why Mr. Bolton, the former national security advisor, says that every morning when Taiwan wakes up, Beijing is offended. So Beijing cannot accept any project that is not unification. Okay, so every project not unification is defined by Beijing as Taiwan independence. So according to them. Okay. So here is so let's get back to the huge debate recently in the US. So the US now debate on how can we, the US, the allies, Taiwan, or the Indo-Pacific can deter China. So there are 2 major arguments. One represents by these scholars, including Bonnie Glasser, Jessica Chen Weiss, and the others, a lot of, we call this establishment, the traditional ones. They think that we should not do too much for the cooperation or any kind of alliance, especially the US cannot do too much to cooperate with Taiwan because that will anger China. So Taiwan should remain low-key. Taiwan should say more to reassure that we are not pursuing independence or something like that. They argue that because China will use force, it's very clear. So we should avoid any of the this kind of activities that will anger China. So they tend to call Taiwan to say more to reassure. That's their argument. Another side, well, I didn't put that. Another side represented by people like Matt Pottinger, Matt Gallagher, and a lot of people. They tend to think that no matter what we do, no matter what Taiwan do or the US do, then China will be angry, just like this, just like this. Well, because the democracy, the existence of Taiwan, the existence of this thriving democracy, then China is always be offended. So we should not be too careful about saying something or doing something that China don't like, because China is always don't like, doesn't like Taiwan. So they tend to think that we should not always require Taiwan to avoid this, avoid that, and we should do more strengthen the capability or strengthen the cooperation. There are two major debates, especially also there's a debate on whether the US should change the strategic ambiguity to make it very clear on deterring China. So still it's ongoing, So I do have some pieces about strategic ambiguity, so maybe you can Google my name, and so some of them are scholars' pieces. So I basically argue that the US should change the strategic ambiguity into a dual clarity. That is, they can stay very clear to China that you cannot use force, or I will do something. So for example, I will commit to defend Taiwan. Also, or the US can even recognize the formal status of Taiwan if China uses force. That is a big deterrence to China. And at the same time, the US can do it very clearly to Taiwan that you cannot do something like declare independence or something, because the US do care about not to anger China about that. So that is called dual clarity. And the whole world, the international media are now asking whether Taiwanese military can defend against China. So everyone is asking this, and also it's one of the most important policies of President Tsai Ing-wen, military reform. After the Ukraine war, there's some changes in public opinion in Taiwan. So I think I like this piece very much because it very best describes the situation. Impossible choice, be Ukraine or Hong Kong. So if you want to be Ukraine, which means that you will defend yourself and very bravely, and you will seek for international support, and you will defend for our home. Be Hong Kong, I mean, however, being Ukraine means that there will be a lot of losses, damages. I mean, yeah, a lot of just casualties, right? And if you are Hong Kongers, then you will be ruled by China. Maybe there will be no war, but also we will lose your freedom. So there will be an impossible choice here. So after the Ukraine war, we have two surveys. The green one is in September 2021, basically before the war, and after and the blue one is after the war. So this x-axis is about the willingness to fight. So this one is very willingness, very likely that you will fight, and likely that you will fight. Neutral, not likely you are not going to fight, and this very unlikely that you will fight. So it's you will see a significant increase in the extreme options here. So people who are willing to fight becoming more willing to fight, but people who are not willing to fight becoming less willing to fight. So it's a polarized effect here. Behind the scene is the partisan support here. So we see a significant lower support for self-defense on the pro-China parties, like including KMT and the TPP here. There's a significant gap here, so they have lower support for self-defense. But for DPP, it's relatively stable for DPP supporters. Well, it is always not a good thing for foreign policies or the defense policies. Do you see this polarized public opinion, right? So there's a lot more to do for ruling parties. They have to come up with some ways to mitigate this gap. Yeah, especially the pro-China parties here. So President Tsai Ing-wen responded very firmly to China's threat that she always do this to reject China's claim and to emphasize that Taiwan is willing to defend ourselves. For takeaway, freedom-loving people should look out for each other. It's by Lithuania's is it foreign minister? Yeah, foreign minister. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah. So everyone in the world should, take care of the dictators' issues and the self-defense and make a democratic alliances, which is my conclusion today. Yeah, thank you. Do you have any questions about this topic? Yeah, please.
China, what do you think, like, the step beyond
So what is China want beyond Taiwan itself, right? So in terms of international relations or international theories, we always see that growing power of, a rising power always seek firstly dominance in the region. Then they will expand. They will not satisfy. They will challenge the whole system. So the whole system is now dominated by the U.S. in terms of military, economy, technology, a lot of things. And China is now, they are saying explicitly that they are challenging the U.S. in terms of economy. They are not willing to say in military, but they are doing this, right? So they're starting from the region and then the whole world. So that is why the U.S., the current government, including, no matter Trump or Biden took power, they all stress that China is now the only country in the world that has the ability and the willingness to challenge the world order. So they explicitly, the U.S. current policy explicitly define China is the main threat. And also, the U.S. emphasized that no matter what happened in Europe and in Middle East, China is still the #1 threat. That is the current status. Yeah. Yeah, please.
There's a growing debate that China's already peaked. It was in that most recent edition of Foreign Affairs. Where do you stand on that? Whether or not they've already peaked and their best opportunity to invade Taiwan or eventually unify Taiwan has already passed?
I would say that there's no the so-called best ways because for Taiwan it's always very difficult to attack because of the geopolitical conditions. For example, it's very difficult to land into Taiwan. It's only a few locations you can land, and also because of the bad weathers or the flow of the ocean. So it's, you can only select very specific timing if you want to land Taiwan. So for China, if they want to invade physically in Taiwan, it's very difficult. And also in a lot of war games simulated, for China, they will have a big loss. As long as Taiwan can defend, as long as Taiwan keeps its willingness to defend. So China will have a big loss. So that's first. And secondly, we are now more aware of China using more gray zone activities like blockade, like a lot of different things, not direct military conflicts. So that's how, especially after 2022, Speaker Nancy Pelosi visit to Taiwan, there's a big drill, a blockade. So I think all over the world just surprised for that because there's a real blockade. And also they fire a lot of missiles. After that, the U.S. strengthens the cooperation with Japan, the Philippines, to react to that blockade. So this time, they also have another blockade, but, well, people are not just getting used to that. So just more different tactics on that. And for the direct invasion, it's not very easy for them for a direct invasion, but they have more tools for that. Yeah, so there's no best way. And also, I'm not a military expert, but there's an argument saying that in between 2027 or 2030, the U.S. is now changing to a new generation of equipment. Am I correct? So there's an upgrade for the fighter jets and the warships and the weapon system. And before that, China thinks that they should do military invasion before that. So if the U.S. just finished the upgrade, then they will have no chance at all. So there's another argument saying this. So there's a lot of different factors here. So, but we sometimes in the dictators they are always unpredictable. So they are facing the internal fight. They are facing the internal economic downturn and a lot of factors there. So for them, I think becoming more and more difficult to invade because their economic downturn. They cannot even pay for the salaries. And also there's corruption issues. the defense minister just disappeared for a long for several months, right? And then there's a leadership trend for several military branches, like their rocket and the missiles and their navies. Yeah.
So do you believe they've already peaked? I mean, because their economy isn't growing as fast as it was 10 years ago.
There will be a lag. So when their economic downturn, they still have a very high level of the military budget, and their downturn will influence their budget and the influence will appear several years later. So their military budget is still growing. So after the economic downturn for some consecutive years, maybe they will starting to lower that, but their military budget is still growing. So they are not peaked yet. So they are still have a very high level of budget. So during the past 2 decades, especially in the year 2000 for Taiwan, the oppositions, KMTs at that time, 20 years ago, they blocked all of the military budget and the new arms sales that time. So we kind of have a gap of 8 years. At that time, the US decided to sell submarines to Taiwan, but because of the legislative chaos that time, we just cannot get that. So right now, from President Tsai Ing-wen, she decided to make our own indigenous submarine. So we lagged for 2 decades. Yeah, but during the past 2 decades, China just, we describe as a cooking dumplings. That is, they have one boat, one warship, two warship, just like they're making dumplings. A lot of dumplings go into the into the military. So we are still the gap is widening. Yeah. Yeah, please.
So if Taiwan's strategy is, determined on the United States guaranteeing independence and security, if the United States were not to happen, were say to abandon Taiwan, what would happen? Is there like a thought to use like a nuclear form of deterrence or any other type of deterrence based on just Taiwan for itself?
Well, for the U.S., it is always, well, so, take the Ukraine war, for example. The U.S. guarantee or say repeatedly that they will not send the troops, ground troops to Ukraine because the U.S. trying to avoid a direct conflict with another nuclear state, Russia. So they are doing the same here in Taiwan. So they will not, they should, or the U.S. trying very hard to persuade China that they will not directly intervene. They will not directly send troops, but maybe they will send the warships around the sea or something like that. So it's always a best strategy of not doing, involving the direct conflict with another nuclear strategy. And for the Taiwan independence side, the U.S. term is always saying the U.S. does not support Taiwan independence. So does not support does not mean to oppose. They are different, right? And also, the U.S. emphasizing to maintain the status quo. Also, they are defining that China is now destroying this status quo. That is a current U.S. position. So they are deterring, they are warning, they are sending message to China that they should not influence this status quo. So, well, the Taiwan independence is still not a good term for the U.S. foreign policy because they know that China will be very angry. So they still maintain the so-called one China policy, which is not support Taiwan's independence, but they support the status quo. So another important thing is that how the Taiwanese people see status quo. So according to the public opinions, 80% of people think that status quo is one country in each side. I mean, we already think that we are 2 countries, but we just cannot. I mean, Taiwanese people are highly practical. We know that if we declare de jure independence, then we'll be attacked, for sure, because China said this. They guarantee they will do this, right? So we just, a lot of people just support the so-called status quo, but we define status quo as already independent. So that's also the approach by the current DPP government. Yeah.
But as like nuclear states avoid conflict with each other, and as Taiwan's a nuclear threshold state, do you think that would be able to avoid the status quo if Taiwan is a nuclear power?
That is an argument by Mearsheimer, right? But in 1980s, Taiwan just secretly made a nuclear bomb, but stopped by the US. Because it's so, you cannot guarantee how the leaders of Taiwan use that power, right? So it's maybe, yeah.
Ironically, the same thing happened in Ukraine, though. They had their nuclear power, and the U.S. negotiated lost that's where they are now.
Yeah, that's exactly why like a lot of people vote nuclear weapons being gotten rid of worldwide by big democratic nations.
Well,
the only way to preserve freedom against like authoritarian regime without having to wage direct war.
It's very difficult to solve because the nuclear bombs is already there, already in the hands of, well, Russians and Chinese. So there's no way they can. I mean, so that's why the U.S. still emphasize they are not willing to go into a conflict with China, with Russia, and with others. And they emphasize the importance of dialogues with to stay the peace building mechanism, something like that, and to avoid the nuclear arms. So, well, but this, I think that so the Russians are also very clever that they sometimes occasionally mention in the nuclear bombs they will use. So I don't know how to solve this. Yeah, but you are right. In the hypothetical scenario, then yeah, according to Mearsheimer, if we have the nuclear bomb, then Taiwan is already independent. But that will only happen in the multiverse, the multi-universe, not here. Yeah. Any other questions? I think we're almost 4 o'clock. Maybe next one. Yeah. So you can, well, recently there's a chaos in the legislature. So the international media is all worry about, all international scholars worry about how the new governments are proposing for the new arms sales and also for the defense budget. So that is most, yeah, many people worry about that. So that is also only the beginning of it. So people, tens of thousands of people just gathering outside of the legislature because the process, the due process. But besides the due process, more of the controversial issues, controversial acts, and yeah, I think there's no solution for this. You will see this for the next 4 years. So it depends on how the DPP governments willing to communicate with people and to gather more support. But for the oppositions, their main goal is to slow down, maybe to slow down a lot of things of the new government. So that's why we see a gathering of the civil society. And the civil society is now worrying and to reorganize again. Because in the past few years, the civil society is not so active because they want to more lobby DPP to do more. But here we see some contradictory relationship because in the same time, the civil society want to push for DPP to do more, but there's a gridlock in the Congress. So yeah, just like another thing for the oppositions, just like 2 decades ago. So we will see what happened. Yeah. Any other questions for that? Well, I think we'll make it a day here. Thank you very much for participating and to listen to me for 3 hours. Thank you very much. Yeah.